All right, let's kick off another deep dive. Today we're, tackling something that I think is close to the heart of every IT professional out there. Uncertainty.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It really is. And our guide for this journey is this really insightful source called Maîtriser l'incertitude, which, for those of us who don't speak French, it means mastering uncertainty. And get this, the source isn't about eliminating uncertainty. It's about, using it like a secret weapon.
Yeah, it's a fascinating approach. The source actually suggests that uncertainty is kind of like the driving force behind agility and resilience, especially in a field as, dynamic as IT.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my interest. I've definitely had my fair share of projects where the goalposts were, moving faster than a cheetah on roller skates. So where do we even begin to kind of master this piece?
Well, the source kind of lays the groundwork with this thing called the VUCA model. It's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's this framework for understanding the inherent chaos that's basically just baked into IT projects.
VUCA. It sounds a bit like a recipe for disaster, but you're saying we can actually use it to our advantage.
Absolutely.
That's
So let's take volatility, for example. The source uses this example of a SaaS startup that launches a fantastic new product, but then they get blindsided by a competitor who integrates like AI into their platform. Suddenly the market shifts overnight. And this startup needs to adapt really, really quickly. That's volatility in action.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen firsthand for sure. The market can just change like that. But isn't that exactly when a smaller, more agile team has an advantage? I mean, they can pivot faster than a larger, more bureaucratic organization.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The source highlights how embracing volatility can actually become like a competitive edge. So think about uncertainty. Remember that retail giant that was trying to migrate their whole infrastructure to the cloud?
Oh, yeah.
The source dives into the, unpredictable technical hiccups that they faced and the way that user expectations shifted during the process.
Yeah. Cloud migrations.
Yeah.
It seems like there are always these unforeseen challenges that pop up, no matter how much you plan.
Exactly. And that's why the source emphasizes the importance of iterative approaches like Agile, where you break the project down into smaller, manageable chunks. You experiment, you get feedback, and then you adapt based on what you learn.
Yeah. Instead of clinging to this rigid plan, you're constantly kind of adjusting course based on new information. It's almost like sailing a ship through uncharted waters.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And strong leadership is really key in that situation. The source emphasizes the need to foster this culture of trust and collaboration, where team members are empowered to navigate those waters together.
Okay, but wouldn't breaking down a project into these smaller chunks, wouldn't that potentially increase complexity in some cases? I mean, you'd have more moving parts, more dependencies to manage.
That's a great point. And the source acknowledges that complexity is a beast in and of itself. Think about that software company developing an all-in-one project management platform. It integrates, task management, team collaboration, time tracking, even budget forecasting, coordinating all those moving parts and diverse skill sets. That's complexity with a capital C.
Yeah, I can see how that could quickly spiral out of control. It's like trying to juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle.
Exactly. And that's where clear communication and a really structured approach becomes super crucial. The source talks about how the company used, visual tools to kind of map out these dependencies and track progress. And they made sure that everyone understood how all the pieces fit together. They also really emphasized cross-team communication and had regular sync-up meetings to keep everything on track.
Okay, so it's not just about breaking down the work. It's also about breaking down the communication barriers between those teams.
Precisely. Now let's dive into the murky depths of ambiguity. So imagine a team that's tasked with designing a groundbreaking new feature for a social media app. The source describes how they had this vision, but the specific details were super unclear. User feedback was vague, and different stakeholders had, conflicting ideas about the feature's functionality and design.
Oh yeah, I'm all too familiar with that scenario. Sometimes you start a project with more questions than answers. You can feel like you're designing a product for a user who doesn't even know what they want yet.
That's the heart of ambiguity. And the source highlights how this team tackled it head-on by embracing experimentation. They created rapid prototypes, tested them with users, and iterated on their designs based on the feedback. And this allowed the feature to kind of evolve organically.
Well, that's interesting. So instead of getting bogged down in these endless debates, uh, they get something tangible out there quickly, and then let the user feedback kind of guide their decisions. That's a smart way to cut through the fog of ambiguity.
Absolutely. And it reinforces the idea that that in this VUCA world, action and adaptation are really key. But
Mhm.
it's not just about reacting to change, it's about using these VUCA elements as tools for innovation and resilience.
Okay, you got me hooked. So how do we turn this VUCA chaos into a source of strength? What specific strategies does the source recommend?
Well, one of the core principles is the power of user stories. The source emphasizes that they are like the language of agile projects, and for good reason.
Okay, the user stories. Aren't those just, anecdotes about users? I'm not sure I see the connection to managing uncertainty.
They might sound simple, but they're actually deceptively powerful. Think of them as like these mini mission statements for features written from the user's perspective. They follow a really clear structure as a I want no okay.
Okay, can you give me an example that really brings it to life?
Sure, the source gives a great one. As a user, I want to be able to update my payment information so that my payments are made without interruption.
Okay, yeah.
You see how clear and focused that is? It keeps the team laser focused on user value and actionable steps.
Okay, I see. By focusing on the why behind a feature, you naturally avoid getting lost in the weeds of technical details or conflicting opinions.
Yeah.
You're constantly bringing it back to the user's needs.
Exactly. And the source also highlights how user stories are fantastic for stakeholder engagement. They encourage these collaborative workshops where users, developers, and other stakeholders all work together to define these stories. It's a powerful way to build consensus and make sure everyone feels heard.
Yeah, I can see how that collaborative approach would be especially valuable in a VUCA environment. You're constantly gathering input and adjusting course as needed.
Precisely. Now let's move on to some tools that can help bring clarity to this chaotic landscape. The source dives into two popular platforms, JRA and Trello. JRA is kind of like your mission control for detailed tracking. Think user stories, backlogs, sprints. It's all in there. And the great thing is, JRA can be customized to fit different workflows.
So that's where you keep tabs on all those moving parts
Yeah.
to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Yeah, I've dabbled in JRO a little bit. Sometimes it feels like I'm navigating a spaceship control panel.
Yeah, it can be a little overwhelming at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's incredibly powerful. Now, Trello, on the other hand, takes a more visual approach. It uses the Kanban method, where you have these virtual boards with cards that represent tasks,
Mm.
and you move them through different columns as work progresses.
Trello. I love Trello. It's so intuitive and visually appealing. Even my non-technical colleagues
Yeah.
love using it.
Yeah. That's one of its strengths. It's designed for ease of use and collaboration. The source even talks about how you can actually integrate JIRA and Trello for this truly seamless project management experience. That way, you get the detailed tracking power of JIRA combined with the visual clarity of Trello.
Mm. Integration is key,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with these complex projects. Speaking of complex projects, I'm curious to hear about those real world case studies that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
How have real teams successfully navigated the choppy waters of VUCA?
That's where Matrix Institute really shines.
Yeah.
It dives into some fascinating case studies that bring these concepts to life. One that stands out is the story of a large financial institution that was undertaking this massive digital transformation project. They were moving from a legacy system to a modern cloud-based platform, a huge undertaking with massive implications for their operations.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine the pressure involved in that kind of a project.
Mm-hmm.
The potential for things to go wrong must have been astronomical.
Exactly. And as you might expect, they ran headfirst into a wall of uncertainty.
Mhm.
They faced unforeseen technical challenges, regulatory hurdles that they hadn't anticipated, and even internal resistance to change from employees who were accustomed to the old ways of doing things.
So it was a perfect storm of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, all rolled into one.
Yeah.
What did they do? Did they abandon the project and retreat back to their, familiar, albeit outdated systems?
To their credit, they didn't panic. They took a step back and embraced an agile approach. They broke the project down into these smaller, more manageable phases, and that allowed them to address issues as they arose, test assumptions, and adjust their course based on real-time feedback.
That sounds like a classic example of using agile to navigate uh, uncertainty. Instead of trying to predict every possible outcome, they focus on adapting to the changing landscape.
Exactly. And they went even further. They created these detailed what-if scenarios. They considered potential positive scenarios, like the possibility of exceeding their initial adoption targets. And they planned, how to scale their resources accordingly. They also explored neutral scenarios where the project progressed as expected. And of course, negative scenarios, like encountering major technical roadblocks or experiencing significant pushback from employees.
So they weren't just reacting to problems as they came up,
Yeah.
but proactively planning for those
Right.
potential what ifs. It sounds like a much more strategic and resilient approach.
Absolutely. They even set up a dedicated risk management team who
Mm.
were responsible for identifying and mitigating potential threats to the project's success. And this team met regularly to review progress, assess risks, and develop contingency plans.
Hmm. That's fascinating. They essentially built a safety net into the project itself. I bet that approach significantly reduced their stress levels.
I would imagine so. And ultimately, their meticulous planning and adaptability paid off. Despite encountering, numerous challenges along the way, they successfully completed the digital transformation project. And they laid the foundation for a more agile and innovative future.
Okay, that's a great example of turning VUCA into a source of strength.
Yeah.
Do you have any other case studies that highlight different strategies for mastering uncertainty?
Yes, absolutely. Maîtriser l'incertitude delves into the story of this small but ambitious game development studio. Their dream was to create this groundbreaking new mobile game that would just revolutionize the industry.
Game development. That's
Yep.
that's an industry known for its fierce competition and ever-changing trends. Sounds like a breeding ground for VUCA.
You're telling me. And sure enough, this studio faced all four VUCA elements head on. They had to deal with volatility in the form of constantly evolving player expectations and the emergence of new gaming technologies. Uncertainty lurked around every corner, from unpredictable development challenges to the uncertain reception of their game in the market. Complexity arose from coordinating a team of, artists, programmers, designers, and sound engineers, all working together to create this cohesive and engaging gaming experience. And of course, ambiguity was present in the form of unclear design choices and the ever-evolving vision for the game.
Wow, that's a lot to juggle. It sounds like they were walking a tightrope over a pit of unknowns.
Mhm.
How did they manage to stay balanced?
One of their key strategies was fostering this culture of radical transparency and open communication. They held daily stand-up meetings where every team member shared their progress, their challenges, their ideas. They encouraged everyone, regardless of their role, to voice their opinions and contribute to problem solving.
So they broke down those traditional hierarchies
Hmm.
and created a more collaborative environment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially when you're dealing with so much uncertainty and ambiguity, if everyone have this shared understanding of the challenges and goals, they're more likely to find, innovative solutions together.
Exactly. And they also embraced this data-driven approach. They implemented a robust analytics tracking within their game, and that allowed them to gather this real-time feedback on player behavior, their preferences, their pain points. This data became their compass, It guided their design decisions and ensured that they were building a game that truly resonated with their target audience.
Hmm. So instead of relying on gut feelings or guesswork, they used data to inform their decisions
Hmm.
and reduce uncertainty. It sounds like they were operating in this constant feedback loop, learning for their players every step of the way.
That's a great way to put it. They even went a step further. They involved their players in the development process. They created this dedicated community forum where players could provide feedback, suggest features, and report bugs. This direct line of communication with their players proved invaluable. It allowed them to identify and address issues early on and ensure that they were creating a game that truly met the needs of their community.
Wow, that's a great example of turning players into partners,
Yeah.
by actively engaging their community. They transformed those potential sources of uncertainty and ambiguity, those evolving player expectations and unclear design choices,
Yeah.
into these valuable sources of insight and innovation.
Absolutely. And their efforts paid off. Their game launched to critical acclaim and commercial success. It became this testament to the power of collaboration and data-driven decision-making, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty as an opportunity for learning and growth.
These case studies are incredibly inspiring. They demonstrate that even in the face of this overwhelming VUCA,
Mm.
teams can not only survive but thrive. But I'm curious, does Maîtrise de l'incertitude offer any specific advice on how to cultivate a team culture that embraces VUCA?
You bet it does. One of the key insights is the importance of fostering a growth mindset. The source argues that in a VUCA environment, the ability to learn and adapt is paramount.
Growth mindset. That sounds familiar. Isn't that the idea that our abilities aren't fixed but can be developed through through effort, learning, and persistence?
Exactly. And in the context of IT projects, this means encouraging team members to view challenges as opportunities for growth, to embrace feedback,
Yeah.
and to constantly seek out new knowledge and skills.
So instead of fearing failure, you view it as this valuable learning experience.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
But how do you actually cultivate that kind of mindset within a team? I mean, it's not like you can just wave a magic wand and make everyone embrace failure.
You're right. It's not about magic wands. It's about creating a culture where experimentation is encouraged, where mistakes are seen as opportunities for learning, and where team members feel safe taking risks and pushing boundaries.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you translate those principles into concrete actions? What does that look like in practice?
The source provides some excellent examples. One company implemented this Failure Friday initiative, where team members would share stories of their failures, the lessons they learned, and the strategies they developed to avoid repeating those mistakes.
Failure Friday. I love that. It's almost like turning failures into badges of honor.
Exactly. It's about normalizing failure as an inherent part of the learning process. Another company created a knowledge sharing platform where team members could document their experiences, share best practices, and ask questions. This created this valuable repository of collective wisdom that everyone could access and contribute to.
It sounds like they were turning their collective experience into a powerful asset. Yeah, I'm starting to see how these seemingly small changes can have a big impact on team culture and ultimately project success.
That's the beauty of it. It's not about grand gestures, but about creating a culture where learning and adaptation are just woven into the fabric of everyday work.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the VUCA model to practical strategies, real-world case studies, and even the importance of fostering a growth mindset. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want to leave our listener with?
I think the core message of Maîtrise de l'incertitude is that we can't eliminate uncertainty in IT projects, but we can control how we respond to it by embracing this VUCA mindset, using data and agile tools, planning for contingencies, and fostering that resilient team culture. We can transform uncertainty from a threat into a source of innovation, adaptability, and ultimately success.
Beautifully said. And as always, I like to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to ponder. So here it is. If uncertainty is the new normal in IT, how can you transform it into a competitive advantage within your own projects?
That's a great question to leave them with.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep diving deep. And remember, in the world of IT projects, a little uncertainty can be a good thing. It keeps things interesting.
Indeed it does.
All right, let's dive into part 2 of our deep dive into Maîtriser l'incertitude. We're going to explore some specific tools and techniques that can help you, wrangle that uncertainty and use it to your advantage. And, we'll also unpack some more real-world examples. So stay tuned.
Yeah, so the source actually dives into a bunch of specific tools and techniques. And one that really stood out to me is this concept of, embracing constraints.
Embracing constraints. That sounds a little counterintuitive. I mean, usually we try to, remove constraints to give ourselves more more flexibility and freedom in a project.
Right, that's the traditional way of thinking. But maîtrise l'incertitude makes this really interesting argument. It says that constraints can actually be a source of creativity and innovation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Well, think about it this way. When you have unlimited options, it can be, paralyzing. You spend all this time trying to weigh the pros and cons,
Mm.
and you end up, second guessing yourself. But when you have constraints, it forces you to focus, to think outside the box, and to come up with creative solutions.
Hmm. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, the source gives this great example of a product design team that was tasked with developing a new mobile app, and they had a really tight budget and a really aggressive timeline.
So a classic case of constraints.
Exactly, but instead of letting those constraints stifle their creativity, they embrace them. They use those constraints as a springboard for innovation.
How did they do that?
Well, the tight budget forced them to be really resourceful. They had to get creative with their use of open source tools and technologies, and the aggressive timeline forced them to prioritize and to focus on the most essential features. And you know what? The end result was this incredibly sleek and intuitive app that was a huge hit with users.
Wow, so they turned those limitations into advantage.
Exactly. They use those constraints to sharpen their focus, to streamline their process, and to ultimately create a better product.
I like that.
So the next time you're facing constraints in a project, don't despair. To take a step back
Yeah.
and see if you can use them to your advantage.
Okay, so we've talked about embracing constraints.
Yeah.
What are some other tools or techniques that Maîtrise l'Incertitude recommends?
Well, another key concept is this idea of building in flexibility.
Building in flexibility.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so in a VUCA world, things are constantly changing. So it's essential to design your projects in a way that allows you to adapt, to pivot, and to respond to those unexpected twists and turns.
So how do you build in that flexibility?
Well, the source suggests a few different approaches. One is to use modular design principles. So instead of building this monolithic system, you break your project down into these smaller independent modules.
Oh, so kind of like Lego block.
Exactly. Each module has a specific function, and they can be easily assembled, rearranged, or even replaced as needed.
That makes sense. So if something changes, like a new technology emerges,
Mm.
or user needs evolve, you can just swap out a module, or
Right.
or add a new one without having to redesign the entire system.
Exactly. It's all about creating this adaptable framework that can evolve with the changing landscape.
I like that. What are some other ways to build in flexibility?
Well, another approach is to use iterative development cycles. So instead of trying to plan everything out in advance, you break the project down into these shorter sprints, and you deliver working pieces of functionality at the end of each sprint.
Yeah, we talked about agile earlier.
Exactly. Agile is a great example of an iterative development methodology. And the beauty of this approach is that it allows you to get feedback early and often, and to make adjustments as needed.
Hmm. So you're essentially building in these checkpoints where you can assess your progress, gather feedback, and make sure you're still on the right track.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like like taking a road trip. You don't just set off without a map and hope for the best. You plan your route,
Mm-hmm.
but you also check in along the way, make sure you're still headed in the right direction, and you're prepared to adjust your course if necessary.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So by building in flexibility, you're essentially giving yourself the freedom to respond to the unexpected, and to make sure that your project stays aligned with the ever-changing needs of your users and the market.
Okay, so we've talked about embracing constraints and building in flexibility. What else can we do to master uncertainty?
Well, one of the most powerful things you can do is to foster a culture of experimentation and learning.
Experimentation and learning. I like that.
Yeah, so in a VUCA environment, it's essential to be willing to try new things,
Yeah.
to experiment and to learn from your mistakes.
But isn't that risky? I mean, what if those experiments fail?
Well, failure is a part of the learning process, and Maitreyi Uncertainty really emphasizes that. The key is to create a safe environment
Mm.
where people feel comfortable taking risks, and where failure is seen as an opportunity for growth.
So it's about shifting the mindset from fearing failure to embracing it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. The source talks about how some of the most successful companies are the ones that have this culture of experimentation. They're constantly trying new things. They're not afraid to fail, and they're always learning and adapting.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I mean, in today's rapidly changing world, the ability to learn and adapt is more important than ever.
Absolutely. And Maitreyi Institute provides some great practical tips on how to foster this culture of experimentation and learning within your team. For example, one technique is to encourage regular brainstorming sessions where team members can come together and share ideas
Hmm.
and experiment with different approaches.
That's a great idea. It's all about creating this space where people feel safe to be creative
Yeah.
and to think outside the box.
Exactly. And another technique is to implement a system of blameless postmortem.
Blameless postmortems.
Yeah, so after a project is completed, or even if a project fails, the team gets together and they analyze what happened. But the focus isn't on blaming individuals; it's on understanding the systemic factors that contributed to the outcome.
Mm. So it's about learning from mistakes.
Yeah.
Without pointing fingers.
Exactly. It's about creating this conculture of continuous improvement, where everyone feels safe to speak up and to share their insights.
Okay, so we've talked about embracing constraints, building in flexibility, and fostering a culture of experimentation and learning. Those are some really powerful tools for mastering uncertainty. But I'm curious, does Maitreyi Uncertainty offer any specific guidance on how to deal with the emotional side of uncertainty? I mean, it can be can be really stressful,
Right.
and even anxiety provoking to work in this kind of environment.
Absolutely, and the source acknowledges that. It talks about how uncertainty can trigger this sense of fear and anxiety, and that can lead to procrastination, to indecision, and even to burnout.
So how do we manage those negative emotions?
Well, the source suggests a few different strategies. One is to practice mindfulness. Yeah. So mindfulness is basically about paying attention to the present moment without without judgment, and it can be a really effective way to manage stress and anxiety.
Hmm. Okay, so how do you actually practice mindfulness?
Well, there are lots of different techniques. One simple technique is to just focus on your breath. Notice the sensation of your breath as you inhale and exhale, and just try to to stay present with that sensation. And if your mind starts to wander, just gently bring it back to your breath.
Okay, I can see how that could be helpful. It's about kind of grounding yourself
Yeah.
in the present moment.
Exactly. And another technique is to practice gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah. So gratitude is about focusing on the things in your life that you're thankful for, and it can be a really powerful way to shift your perspective and to boost your mood.
Okay, so even when things are feeling uncertain and chaotic, we can still find things to be grateful for.
Absolutely. There's always something to be grateful for, even if it's even if it's just the fact that we're alive and we're breathing.
I like that. So mindfulness and gratitude, those are two really powerful tools for managing the emotional side of uncertainty.
Exactly. And Maîtriser l'incertitude also talks about the importance of self-care. Making sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're eating healthy, that you're exercising,
Mhm.
and that you're taking time for yourself to relax and recharge.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially in a field like like IT, where it's so easy to get to get caught up in the work
Mm.
and to forget to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, embracing constraints, building in flexibility, fostering a culture of experimentation and learning, practicing mindfulness and gratitude, and taking care of ourselves. Those are just a few of the key takeaways from Maîtriser l'incertitude.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive. I'm feeling much better equipped to handle the uncertainty that inevitably comes with IT projects.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
And to our listeners, I encourage you to explore Maîtriser l'incertitude
Yeah.
and to see how you can apply these principles to your own work. Until next time, keep diving deep.
It really is fascinating how, uncertainty, something that we often try to avoid, can actually be like a catalyst for innovation and success.
Yeah, it's a powerful shift in perspective, and the source Maîtriser l'incertitude dives even deeper into the practical side of things. One area that really resonated with me is this concept of learning from failure.
Yeah.
Learning from failure.
Isn't that a bit counterintuitive? I mean, shouldn't we be, striving to prevent failures in the first place?
In a traditional project management mindset, perhaps,
Yeah.
but in a VUCA environment, the source argues that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase, fail fast, fail often. But I've always been a bit, hesitant to fully embrace that philosophy. It seems a bit risky, especially in the world of IT where mistakes can have, significant consequences.
Right. The key is not to celebrate failure for its own sake, but to extract those valuable lessons from those experiences. Maîtriser l'incertitude talks about how one company implemented this post-mortem process for every project,
Mhm.
regardless of whether it was deemed a success or a failure.
A postmortem for every project, that seems like it could be pretty time consuming. It's an investment. But the insights gained can be incredibly valuable. The team would gather to analyze, what went well, what could have been improved, and what specific actions they could take to prevent, similar issues from cropping up in the future. These postmortems became like a powerful source of continuous learning. It helped the company refine its processes and build a more resilient culture.
So it's not about dwelling on the negatives,
Yeah.
but about extracting those nuggets of wisdom that can help you improve it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about analyzing failures. The source also emphasizes the importance of celebrating successes, no matter how small.
Yeah.
Recognizing and rewarding achievements, even those that might seem insignificant, can boost team morale, reinforce positive behaviors, and contribute to a culture of continuous improvement.
It's about finding that balance between learning from mistakes and celebrating wins.
Yeah, it sounds like a recipe for a highly motivated and engaged team.
Absolutely. And Maîtriser l'incertitude provides some really inspiring examples of how companies have created this kind of environment. One organization implemented a kudos board
Mhm.
where team members could publicly acknowledge and appreciate each other's contributions. This simple act of recognition fostered this culture of appreciation and encouraged a spirit of collaboration.
Yeah, I love the idea of a kudos board. It's such a positive and uplifting way to build team spirit, and it probably helps to counterbalance those inevitable moments of frustration and uncertainty that come with working on these complex IT projects. Absolutely, and another company introduced this innovation hour, where team members could dedicate an hour each week to exploring new ideas, experimenting with different technologies, or just brainstorming creative solutions to challenges they were facing. And this dedicated time for innovation fostered this culture of curiosity and experimentation. which led to some pretty groundbreaking ideas and improvements.
It sounds like they were giving their team permission to be creative
Yeah.
and to think outside the box. Yeah, that's so important, especially in a field like IT,
Yeah.
where things are constantly changing and evolving.
Precisely, and it all ties back to that growth mindset we were discussing earlier. By creating a culture where learning, experimentation, and innovation are encouraged, you're essentially empowering your team to embrace VUCA and
Yeah.
to use it as a catalyst for growth and success.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the key takeaway here is that mastering uncertainty is not about eliminating it, but about reframing our relationship with it. Instead of viewing it as a threat, we can choose to see it as an opportunity for learning, adaptation, and ultimately achieving extraordinary results.
That's a fantastic summary. Trisé l'incertitude challenges us to rethink our approach to IT projects, to embrace the inherent chaos, and then to leverage uncertainty as a driving force for innovation and resilience.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I'm feeling inspired and ready to tackle those uncertain waters with a newfound sense of confidence and a toolbox full of practical strategies.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
And to our listener, I encourage you to explore maîtriser l'incertitude and to discover how you can transform uncertainty into a competitive advantage within your own projects. Remember, in the world of IT, the only constant is change. And those who can adapt and thrive in the face of uncertainty will be the ones who lead the way. Until next time, keep diving deep.